All right, so we're here today to do the OSCE for doing the horse palpation of lymph nodes and arteries on the face. So the first thing that we're going to start with is the transverse facial artery. We're going to place our 3 fingertips on the caudal to the lateral canthus of the left eye. And then we're going to gently stroke the area with these fingertips to stick the artery. It's a thin subcutaneous strand running horizontal to diagonal direction and passing ventral to the eye. Once we find the pulse, we can count for 10 to 15 seconds and then multiply by 6 or 4 to obtain the minute rate of the pulse for the horse. Another place on the face that we can check the pulse is going to be the facial artery, which is going to be down along the mandible. So we want to run our fingers along the ventral margin of the mandible and find the artery running perpendicular to the mid-mandible. After we find it, we can stabilize the artery between our index and our ring fingers, and then we can read the pulse on that medial edge of the ventral mandible. There are also lymph nodes that we can palpate in the horse face. So first we're going to do the submandibular. Slightly caudal to the facial artery. We want to place our fingertips of both hands on the midline in the external mandibular space, pressing up gently to the ventrum of the root of the tongue. Then we want to slide the fingers to the medial surface of each mandible and gently push dorsally, displacing the tissue laterally. And then that will allow us to displace the lymph nodes and allow them to kind of bleb through our fingers and us to palpate them to make sure that they're symmetrical and not enlarged or anything like that. There are also retropharyngeal lymph nodes. So we want to move to the dorsolateral edges of the larynx, and then move our hands ventrally over the larynx and reset and move rostally into the intermandibular space at the angle of the mandibles. And then you can find the paired lymph nodes in this section here underneath the angle of the mandible. Our last ones are parotid lymph nodes. They're going to be towards the ear, caudal to the ramus of the mandible. And normally you can only palpate one of the muscular tendinous attachments, not necessarily the entire lymph node.